All right, welcome back to Passionate Plants. Today we're going to be talking about compost, in particular worm compost. This is my worm farm that I generally use for small runs, and we're going to just go over what it is, how it works really quickly, and how I kind of get my compost. Today, the materials that we're going to be using, I'm going to quickly go over, and I'm going to have the assistance of my son, Bruce.
Hi.
Brucey Blue. He is my amazing helper here, so we're just going to show you how it's done. So as you can see, I basically have what I'm using is a two-system tote for my worm farm. That consists of two of these black totes that I got from Home Depot. These are 17-gallon. You can take a look at what they kind of look like. This is a smaller version of it, but it's virtually the same thing. It comes with the lid. In this particular one, I punched a hole right in the middle, had a thermostat from something else that I had, so I just kind of sized it, stuck it in there, and it helps me to keep a gauge of the temperature inside because I do leave this outdoors year round. We have our compost here. So I have a two-system setup. Normally it's a three-system, and that's what I started with originally, where essentially you have these three totes stacked on top of each other. They all have holes drilled into the bottom of them to allow drainage, and that allows the worms to kind of move through the different sections. The bottom level is left empty without holes to catch any of the worm juice or worm water that people sometimes will use for fertilizers. I use a lot of coco coir, so it may be the reason, but I wasn't getting much worm juice, so I went ahead and just removed that part of it, and I do a two system. The downside to it is I do lose worms because they can essentially just go straight through the bottom and into the dirt, but I'm okay with that because we generally will do a kind of a worm hunt every time I go through my yard doing any type of transplanting or digging. I'll find worms, we'll make a game of it, kids will get involved, we catch as many, put them into the farm, kind of replenish the population. So this would be the top tote. I'll show you a complete setup in a second, but this would be what I keep on my top, and I just throw whatever compost I have on the ready right inside, cover it up with some whatever extra soil or coco coir that I have. This would be the bottom section. This is where the worms have been feeding for about a month or so now. So there is still some organic material, but most of it has been kind of dealt with, and it's a lot of rich fertilized soil there that in sense would be considered organic. The only other part that I'm using for this process of getting this compost from raw material down to broken down, last step is going to be filtration, and that's where I just use a basic pool, screen, dump it on there, shift, pull out any of the big organic pieces, and then I kind of mix and set the rest to the side. So that's the system that I use, and I'll give you a quick example of how it kind of all flows together. Alright, so this is the completed system, or what I use. Generally how it works is this would be where it sits. I take this off. If I have small things, I'll just drop it right in there, cover it up, come back later. Bigger things, I'll just take off the lid and start adding to it. So what I do in this particular case is lift this one out. And normally I would switch this out so that I can kind of leave it open and drive the worms down to make sure that they all get down to the bottom. I've already done that, so now I'm just in the phase of, sifting through. So we're going to be looking at the pool here. Again, this is all makeshift, nothing fancy, I know, but again, it works for me, so to each their own, right? So, just because I am a one-man show here, I try to make sure I don't overload myself and make it too difficult. And then this is where I just go through the sifting process. Shake it. I do a multiple sift because of, obviously things get lost here. But what I normally just do this for is just to kind of help me get some of the big chunks pulled out. See, it's not the most effective. I kind of ripped some holes into my screen, and I got to get a new screen, so that will make it a little easier. And then this is basically what I'm trying to get off. This kind of stuff I can break up easy enough, and I might even use, but it's really about trying to get these kind of chunks out of here. So obviously you see the side spillage that I have. I'm gonna make some adjustments. This right here, this is what we want. This is what I tell my kids all the time. Like, this is, I guess they call it literally black gold. This is where the money's at. This is where everybody's balling. There's some little green like pellets that I think these were fertilizers from some old plant that I had a long time ago, and every time I go through this I keep trying to pull them out, keep finding them. So I guess that technically would make it not organic at this point, but I don't really stress that too much at this point in my life. So that's that. Hope you enjoy your planting. Happy worm composting. Let me know if you have any questions.